We are live.
What's up, Mortgage Coach community? Dave Savage coming to you live. I have been, Todd, I think you said you've been in 7 cities over the past how long?
7 states over the past 30 days. Been kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think I have been in the same. It's been a busy 30 days. I am broadcasting live out of Portland, WeWork. But if you watched me yesterday, that interview I did with Josh Metal, that was out of Seattle. And then I think 2 days before that, I broadcasted something out of Houston. So it's been fun. It's been crazy, but it's been good. So Todd, it's been a while since you and I kicked off and led this call together.
You know, I'm kind of excited because it seems like I've done more calls from airports lately than I have from anywhere else. So it's fun to be back here at my desk. And yeah, we were just talking beforehand. We haven't caught up in a couple of weeks. So I can't wait for our scheduled call on Monday to hear what else is going on.
Yeah, so me too. So guys, it is August 2nd, the kickoff of August, and July was just fantastic. I mean, I have met dozens and dozens of mortgage professionals. I helped facilitate a top producers mastermind dinner in Seattle or in Tacoma yesterday. And just there's a lot of excitement in the business. Everybody is doing really well. So I like to do these calls where they really serve two purposes. One, it's a sales meeting for the mortgage coach community. So it's like, hey, let's huddle up and celebrate some wins. And what are the ideas and strategies we need to focus on today? So we're going to start by just recognizing some of the people that have had big months. I'm going to share my screen. Todd, if you could confirm that you can see it and that I'm showing the right thing.
I can see it.
So I put a post out. It's 6:30 in the morning, before my schedule really got busy. Just like, hey, who had a record month? And how many loans did you close? And we've had 87 members in our community comment on it, which to me, that tells me a couple things. One, we've got an awesome community of engaged people. And then the results were crazy. Todd, have you thumbed through all this feedback and all this celebration?
You know, I looked at a lot of them early on yesterday, and I've been unplugged from social since then. But what I love is when you see like Coach Bill Hart calling out a client of his who's just crushing it. Obviously, you interviewed Josh, which we'll talk about, and his team's crushing it. But I'm really into I love seeing the people who are just doing, hey, I did 15 loans and that was my record month, right? I mean, I think that there's so much to celebrate all of you who are individual loan officers who feel like maybe a little intimidated by some of these huge numbers out there. I mean, in the end, this is about you. Like, how do we help you go from 5 to 6 loans? How do we help you go from 8 to 10 loans consistently? And I think that's what this community is about, right? I love the top producers, right? I mean, it's so cool to see that and to aspire to that, but I don't want that to discourage the rest of you to continue to jump in here and talk about what you're doing, right? There's 9 loans. That's awesome. Like, I love seeing that. That's great. Congrats to all of you who are in there. And if you haven't posted, let's see you guys post whether your record's 4 loans or whether it's 44 loans. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, no doubt. And I loved them all. I mean, I loved every single comment. Drew, I love this one where you called out, the refis that you're doing. And of course, I always like it when we get a thank you to Mortgage Coach, but no pressure to anyone. You don't need to do that. But I am with you, Todd. Like, I am super proud that we have so many top producers and just industry icons that are active in this community. So I think that's special, but I am equally excited that we have so many new loan officers, learning the mortgage business in this community and getting inspired from each other in this community. And so if you're new, share your results, especially the first month you hit 10 loans. We want to know that. And like you said, Todd, I love it when someone just has a personal best or gets out of, breaks a cold streak. So every single comment is awesome. I also wanted to call one out. I missed it. Someone kind of was like, hey, enough of the celebration. Let's get back to work. And do you remember that one, Todd?
Yeah, here
it is. Here it is. Well, let me say my first thought, and then you throw yours in. So first of all, Eric, I can tell we're friends, man. I love your style. It's like next, but I also want to make sure everybody has permission to brag in this community. Like, remember, this is a sales meeting. And if you were with your peers at a branch and people were having personal best, people were having a good one, let's open up the meeting. Let's open up the month with a little bit of bragging little bit of sharing of success. And then I thought you might like how I responded to him, Todd. You know, it's like, hey, recognizing and celebrating monthly goals. We don't need to brag every week, but monthly goals and personal achievements, that's great to building a sustainable culture. And by the way, just sustainable success. But to his point, it's time to get back to winning by noon. So Todd, your turn. Any comments?
Well, you know, I throw a couple things out there. You know, I'm always happy to share transparently. Like last week, we talked about the fact that, you know, my teams did this big refi push in July, and, you know, our team will have a record month in August with, you know, with the pipeline that's, you know, that's closed, and it's over 50 loans, you know, over, you know, about $15 million, maybe just shy of that. And I'm sure we'll jump in a couple of other loans that'll jump in that the team will save. And so what I love is taking the motivation of this group and then translating it out there to win by noon users, to my clients, and then ultimately to my team, who I think in the end can really benefit from, you know, you got to do that. And so I do agree that you have to get back to work, right? The number one email I got this month from Win by Noon users was, Todd, I'm so overwhelmed with refinances that I'm out of my daily routine. And so that's really where I think that, you know, you've got to focus on what's most important on your purchase business every day, and then make sure, you know, that we're not forgetting about the fact, you know, when Dan Keller talked about it, right? He's doing his refis after 5. I mean, maybe that's a little bit extreme, but don't give up your purchase normal business and your normal routine. Keep that, and then figure out, how do I squeeze in, you know, this extra opportunity of the refi market that we're in, because that's, you know, it's a gift, right? And you have the media doing such a great job of promoting lower interest rates. And in this community, we've known what's been going on now for a while, but, you know, your average consumer is going to send you the email that says, hey, I heard interest rates dropped to between 2.25% and 2.5%. And it's a great job for you to be reaching out to your database and educating them. So that's, you know, that's always how I respond when I see something like that. It's let's get back to work. But I agree with you. Let's make sure we take some time to give each other high fives and celebrate, because we haven't done enough of that in this community. So I'm super stoked that you put that post out there.
Cool. So guys, that's our 5-minute kickoff celebrating success. Time to get into some discussion topics. Before I get into the core topics that I promoted today's call around, which were talking a little bit about testimonial, and then talking a lot about consumer first lead generation. That's going to be a core topic for today. And anybody watching this, if you're watching it live, you get to mold the conversation. So if you have questions, post them in Facebook Live or post them in Zoom. But, you know, last week we had a really big win at Mortgage Coach, launching the advice engine, and the feedback has been incredible. We've had some people that, hey, change is hard. Like, you know, the first TCA you created with this new interface, it may have been hard. We had some people said that I just took right to it and I loved it. But here's the deal. Literally 99% of the people, verdicts in, they love the advice engine. If you love it, let us know what you like about it. And if you have issues with it and concerns about it, or things that you want to upgrade in it, let us know about that too. You can either email ideas@mortgagecoach.com. And if you just want to make sure I get it, CEO of Mortgage Coach, you can CC me. Send it to dave@mortgagecoach.com. But advice engine was a huge milestone for Mortgage Coach. It's never been faster to learn how to use Mortgage Coach, and it's never been easier to create a total cost analysis. So that was a big win. Todd, did you want to say something? We can't hear you, Todd. Todd, you need to unmute yourself.
Man, I always hate that. I was logging into Facebook Live on my cell phone so I could start making some comments. But I've been training my brother-in-law who's brand new at loans, and he's like, oh my gosh, check it out. They changed the program. I finally learned it. And so I jumped in there with him the other day, and it is super cool and it is super easy. And at first I was like, oh, I hate this. It's so different. And then, you know, once I figured out how to navigate it, it is rock solid. So I think you're right, Dave. It's just different. It's not, you know, and it's better. And so just don't get, don't be a grumpy person who's stuck in change. You know, jump in and embrace it. I think that's the key, because it is super cool.
Yeah, and just a reminder, a few of the things that make it so awesome are, from a learning perspective, the fact that we've integrated videos, you know, specific videos that are contextual to where you're at with Mortgage Coach. Those are at the top. And then the big, huge gift for users that have used this before are strategy templates. So make sure you create strategy templates. So if you are a new user, it will come preloaded with a bunch of strategy templates. And now all you need to do, like if I'm doing a first-time home buyer, I click first-time home buyer, I copy that, and something that took you 5 or 10 minutes to create, you can now just update the loan amount and the interest rate, and it's done in a matter of like seconds, not minutes. So strategy templates are where the speed is. And then the other thing that we think is a big win is that you can add a video on every page. So like as you're going through Mortgage Coach, video on every page, live highlight on every page. So as you're clicking through it, you can click on highlight and do that. And then this has been a big win. People are just loving the fact that as you go through every program, it's showing you what the DTI is, what the LTV is, what the cash to close is. It's building that out from option to option as you build it. So there's a lot of other value in the new platform, but those are just a few highlights. Anything you want to call out, Todd, before we keep it rolling?
Well, I know that you guys did a video on it on a Tuesday call. Was that the best place for people to start who really want to learn all these cool things, or how would you recommend someone learn?
Yeah, so yeah, I will. I've done a couple of videos. Jacob Gibbs and I did a 20-minute, this is why we did it. This is what it is. You can check that out. And then I don't know if it was last Tuesday or the Tuesday before, Jacob and I, we dedicated a call to launching the advice engine. And I'd say like the first 15 to 20 minutes was what we did, why we did it. And then we actually did some training on mortgage strategies. So that's probably the best one. The Tuesday call with Jacob Gibbs and I launching, I think it's called launching the new advice engine. Check it out. And we will put a link in comments and a link in live. So guys, I also want to own something that wasn't so great that happened to Mortgage Coach. Some of you know it. It was a rub for some people. It wasn't as big a deal for others. But we had a rate watch outage. So my apologies for any inconvenience that caused you. There were a number of days where we didn't have the alerts working. So on behalf of the entire team at Mortgage Coach, apologies for the outage. It is back on, working better than ever, and that will not happen again. I mean, in 20 years of business, we've never had an outage like that, but we did have a multi-day outage, and I apologize, guys. So let's do this. Let's real quick go into bestimonial and talk about that, and then let's just get after it with lead gen. So I am going to show on my screen our Facebook group. I want to remind you guys that we have this announcement section. So I will, myself, Todd, Tina, the people that manage this group, there'll be things that we just want to make sure they're at the top. So we have the announcement area. And the bestimonial contest, I would say, first of all, you could always post an example of a bestimonial in our Facebook group. What is a bestimonial? It's anytime you take a testimonial or a review and you promote it on social media, period. That is a bestimonial. And you think it's one of your best examples. Now in the month of July, I've got a couple judges. We're going to announce the winner on Tuesday. The winner gets earbuds, iPad, and an Apple Watch. So, a couple $1,000s in rewards for the bestimonial. I have put announcements of a few of them in the top of our group. So those will be up through Tuesday. If you see one of these and you like it, give it a like, give it a love, make a comment. What did you like about it? If I missed one, like there's one that you don't think I put in announcements that was posted, #bestimonial, let me know and we'll put it into announcements. And then myself and the 3 judges in the first 15 to 20 minutes of Tuesday's call, we will announce who's going to get a couple $1,000s worth of gift. I do want to showcase a couple of them so that you guys can check them out and think about them between now and the next time, between now and Tuesday. So usually when I see loan officers share testimonials, it's just a cut and paste of what the customer said. And maybe they put a little headline on it. Sometimes it's automatically put into their feed, so it just pops up as this like automated alert. I thought this was really cool. This is a father who's a mortgage professional talking with his daughter, talking about a client that they served and talking about how we just go above and beyond the Call of Duty to serve. and you just got to know them. I mean, you liked this family. I mean, this looks like someone I'd want to hang out with, and very creative. I've never seen that done before. Sean, I don't know whether you're going to win or not, but for creativity, coolness, huge.
He's a good dude. He's a Win by Noon certified instructor. He was one of my one-on-one clients for a year. So I'm a huge fan, and I love what he did. He's great, as he hashtags himself there, great mortgage dad. Yeah,
and you can just tell that he is. You know, Greg Anderson just continued to get after it. Mr. Consistency, you know, $70 million producer out of Seattle, you know, done over 1,000 TCAs, and he's just consistent, getting after it, getting out there. Josh Meadow, this is another first. And you tell me if you've seen this, Todd, where he interviewed a first-time home buyer that did a loan with Fairway. It wasn't someone who actually did a loan with him, but you know, he took this position as, I'm branch manager, I'm a leader. He didn't say all those things. He just showed up as this servant leader, and he interviewed this first-time home buyer that, you know, went with a different lender, you know, talked to Fairway, didn't go with them, went with another lender, didn't have a good experience. And I just thought, you know, absolutely a 10 for creativity, absolutely great leadership. Like, whether you share this on social media and promote it, how many of you guys on this call are doing this? Calling up a past client that you did something with and having a 15-minute conversation around what they liked about your service or what they didn't like. So I thought this was good leadership.
I did watch it, and I was a little bit nervous about it because I'm like, well, why did she leave? And then it's because it was a builder, right? She went with a builder and was required to use that lender. And so it was kind of fun to hear him circle that back and to get a first-time home buyer to actually jump on the video. But it's a really good story to tell, right? You know, I think storytelling is so important to your clients. They're looking for people like them that they can relate to so that they want to do business with you as well. So if I was one of Josh's clients that was working with one of his team members and I saw this and I was, you know, a 20-something-year-old first-time home buyer, like, this would make me feel really comfortable working with them and their team.
Yeah, and for all you that are like, oh, you know, that was a 15-minute video, no one's ever going to watch it. Well, here's my take. This is documenting. He had a leadership conversation with a client. He documented that conversation in a 15-minute video, and he promoted it. I have a feeling that he's going to create a lot of micro content out of this. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some quotes that came out of it that the client said. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some 15-second to 30-second to 1-minute videos that come out of this. So it'll be fun to see what Josh and his team do with this testimonial. But I mean, it's very impressive leadership. It's well done. Definitely a front runner in the testimonial contest. But more importantly than that, it's an example of good leadership. And I would just reach out to everybody in this community over the next week. And I'm giving you a short deadline because if I give you a month, you'll never do it. But over the next week, have a 10 to 15-minute conversation with a client. Like, if you can record it on Zoom, that is next level, and that's cool. But even if you can't, like, you don't know them well enough, or you're not comfortable enough, or it's just not the right venue, have a 10 to 15-minute conversation with a client that you've helped over the past 60, 30 days and learn. Show up with a heart of curiosity, take some notes. And if you do record it, I would love to see more mortgage coach loan officers having these types of conversations with clients. Todd, anything else before we go on to the next one?
Well, no, I totally agree. And I actually think that there will be some people who will watch all 15 minutes, right? The client who wants to know more, like to understand the experience, is going to watch it. And you're right, Josh will do some amazing micro content around it. And if you haven't watched that video that you and Josh did, I mean, that's huge. I know we're going to talk about it a little bit on the lead gen part, but that's Gary V 101 right there. And I think that's super critical. And I love the fact that you're highlighting it and that he's sharing it.
All right. So guys, we're going to dedicate a lot of this call to consumer first lead gen. So we'll talk about this video in a minute. This Tuesday, I had three amazing guests. I was counting myself as the fourth. Whatever.
You're pretty amazing. Okay.
No, I did have four. I was like going to three. I had four amazing guests, and we talked about 4 amazing lead gen strategies. And we just showcased it. I wanted to make sure, one, we have different people that show up to this call versus our Tuesday call. And then I also wanted to be available to talk about these ideas and others. So we'll come back to this in just a minute. This is a really important article. To me, it's a really important article because, one, Shayla Gifford is such a fantastic mortgage professional and inspirational leader. So I think she's just an important leader in our space. And Josh was on this call, by the way. So Josh and I, by the way, Todd was on this call too. I didn't, anybody that watches it, I didn't let Todd talk as much as he usually does or wants to. But myself, right. Todd, and Josh, yeah, sorry about that, bro. But it was a really solid call. And then to me, I like to take some of these solid calls and turn them into LinkedIn articles. So I created myself and our team, we created this LinkedIn article that gives you a synopsis of it. Really helps you take some of the ideas that were discussed and put them into action. We really came up with what were these 12 steps that Shayla and her team do, and that Shayla teaches and trains other loan officers to do. What are these 12 steps? So I wanted to make sure we shined a light on it. Obviously, the community liked it because it's had like 95 likes. So that's pretty good. So guys, you liked it. And then one last testimonial showcase, and then we'll get into lead gen. Todd, anything you want to comment about the Shayla Gifford interview or the Shayla Gifford article?
I thought the interview was fabulous. And at the very end too, like Josh went on sort of a roll on refis and what he's doing in the scripting. And so I know we're going to highlight his other video, but I think even just that other piece that Josh did there, I think you peeled it out too and did a video on it. It's like gold. If you haven't listened to it, you've got to. I went back and even though I was there live, re-listened to it again.
Yeah. And I did. I edited it out. I posted it. I didn't do a LinkedIn article. But when I'm not talking in a minute, I will go find it and I'll post that in comments down below. The Josh Metal quick hit on how he is making the most of the refi win.
I think the key with that is you can do that now, right? If you're like, well, gosh, all these people, doing these tons of refis and I'm not, well, just watch that. I mean, there's ideas and opportunities there that you can implement today to increase your refis in the next 60 days.
Right on. So the last testimonial I want to showcase, because it will be a front runner. I already know one of the judges is leaning towards voting for this one, is the testimonial from Denise Donahue out of Dallas, Texas. Created 1,000+ TCAs. She is just incredible when it comes to creating content marketing. The interview I did with her recently where she talked about how she's focused on first-time home buyers, consumer first, getting to them before the realtors, and how she's creating videos, showing the total cost analysis, promoting them on Facebook, fabulous. But the way she is bragging about her testimonials and her reviews and everything she's doing on Zillow is it's as good as it gets. So make sure you also check out Denise Donahue's. She will be a front runner for the winner. And anything you want to say on that, Todd, before we get into Consumer Direct?
No, she's just awesome. And again, look at that post right there. It's not like easy, right? Someone had to go through and create that, whether it's, I'm assuming they're real balloons, not a background she pulled off the internet. But, again, think about the impact that has to her community of clients to see that she's celebrating herself and that's kind of a big deal. So, these little things, if you can go out of the way, that's not expensive to do. It's, $25 worth of balloons probably, but, maybe 30 and a little bit of time, but it's obviously going to get her a lot of people thinking, wow, she's pretty good.
Bro, that is more than $25 worth of balloons.
I'm just thinking about that.
When's the last time you went and got balloons?
It's $10 for those numbers, I'm super cheap.
At least,
all our kids' birthdays.
Well, that's at least $50 worth of balloons, and it could be a lot more. But all right, I'm giving you a hard time. I'm having fun with you. But guys, give us feedback on these testimonials. And we are 20 minutes into the call, and it is time to get after it with leads. So Todd, I led that call on Tuesday. I've written an article that I call, the Mortgage Coach Lead Generation Playbook. that I will pull up here in a minute. But why don't you go first, just because you've put some thought into this, and why don't you share your color on consumer first strategies and what people should be doing right now in today's market?
Well, let me give a quick promo. I've been asked by this community for a long time to sort of share what the research and what I've seen other people who have coached through HomeBot, and then also what my team's been doing now for about a year with HomeBot. And I keep hinting at that I'm going to eventually come out with something. I'm going to do a live webinar at noon Pacific next Thursday. If you just go to winbynoon.com/calendar, I'll throw in a link down below. You can register, and I'm going to walk through. And I kind of got inspired on this whole idea of consumer first. I've been looking into it since, last couple of years, right? Really, I mean, Josh inspired me almost a decade ago when he sat down and told me what he was going to do with his physician loan program. But we've really seen it kind of blow up as we're seeing Zillow obviously try to own the consumer, right? They're changing up their leads and how they're going to distribute their leads going forward. If you're not familiar with that, with their iBuyer strategy, and then now how they're some of their leads they're not selling now, they're actually giving them to real estate agents in exchange for a big chunk of the commission as a referral fee. And so there's a shift going on in the market. And when those leads get referred, they're going to get referred with their mortgage company. And so the whole idea of this consumer first piece is that you really do have to get to the consumer first in order to keep them from getting sucked into someone else's data machine, right? And so one of the scripts that I learned from Josh Metal is reminding your clients that when they're on those sites that their data is getting sold, right? No one wants their data sold. And so your goal is really to figure out, how do I get to the consumers first? Certainly it's good for you and your business. It's also great for your realtor partners, right? That's going to turn into directable business for you down the road, because you're going to have an opportunity when you create that lead, when you connect with that lead, to push it forward. But in the end, they don't just appear, right? You have to think through a strategy. We've been talking about it, Dave, you and I in this community for a couple of years now, right? We had Bill Hillstead on talking about Facebook, a couple of years ago. Those are some of the strategies that you're seeing Josh implement now. We've had other folks on here that have talked through, I'm forgetting his first name, McInnes, out of the Midwest, who is, why am I forgetting his name? That's bad. But
Jonathan McInnes,
right?
1,000 Club TCA guy, Win by Noon guy, killing it.
Right, and so he's taking those ideas of the video and interviews in the community, all things that we've talked about. And I think that the key always is that there's lots of ideas that are out there. Every one of these things that Dave, you just showed, these testimonials, is getting to the consumer first when you're posting it. I would tell you that what's different about those testimonials than, like hey, look at my 5-star review on Social Survey. Those are good too. You need those as well, but having that personal touch. And so it really always comes back to what is genuinely naturally you, right? I mean, you're not necessarily going to be as comfortable doing some of the things that we're highlighting people do, but you've got to come up with a consumer first strategy, some way for you to create this funnel to get stuff in there. And so, I think probably going through and you and I kind of rapping on what you did with Josh is probably a good way to launch off into it. And then if anyone else has any strategies that they've been doing, we can absolutely talk about that. And I can kind of give a little bit of feedback on what I'm seeing my team do with some of the Facebook strategies and whatnot that we're doing.
Cool. So again, I want to make these calls that we do as actionable as possible for you all. So I can tell everybody right now, if you want to turn this into something more than, oh, it was cool, I got some good notes, you're going to need to schedule a jam session to work on some of this stuff and get it done. As you can see, Facebook Live is going right now. I shared the advice engine that I told you guys about. Like, if you want to, hear myself and Jacob Gibbs, our director of technology, why we did it, what we did, what's different about it, it's right here. Dan Keller did just an exceptional job on, I don't know, like 2 or 3 Fridays ago. He was a guest. I wasn't on it. Todd said he killed it. So my team took the part where Dan Keller unleashed. It was like it's like a 1-hour call, but I think this is about 15, 20 minutes of Dan Keller just, what is he doing to crush it with the refis? And then I put a link to the lead generation playbook. So that's in here. And then I'm pretty sure, I thought I saw Tina put a link to the Josh Metal interview that we just talked about. So just want to make sure you guys know it's all in there. If you have questions, Todd and I are looking at this and we will answer those questions. So Todd, what strategy should we talk about first? I guess refis, because consumer direct refis, it's still not too late. I'm going to share one idea, Todd, and then whether you're just pulling an idea that someone's already doing or it's a new idea, you're next. So here's a thought. So I was just up with Jason Nutzman and the Finance America crew in Seattle a couple days. And Jason did something really smart. It was the refi boom had kicked off and he thought like they had got the first wave of refis. And one thing that he noticed that, hey, everybody's getting after it with the refi boom. All the online lenders and the portfolio lenders, they're like laser focused. A demand for payoff comes in, they're on it. And so sharpening the pencil has happened. But there's a second and third wave. So one of the things that they did is they put together an incentive. I don't want to get into the details because I interviewed him and I'm going to share that either later today or Monday. But I interviewed him on the incentive that they provided. But if you're a manager, one of the incentive was you've got to give a total cost analysis. So I know I'm Mr. Mortgage Coach, but if you are not giving every single refi, no matter how brainless it is, a total cost analysis, you're deciding to be good versus great. Like you're just like, I want to be good enough. I'm going to give them the payment savings, but you're not giving the TCA. And then here's my other idea, that when you are saving someone money, show column 3 or show in the refi prepaying the mortgage. So it's like, here's your monthly payment. Always make sure you shine a light on the 5-year value because you're blowing up that value. But then let's blow it up one time more. Let's multiply it by, hey, if you prepaid your mortgage, not only are you saving, $200 per month or $70 per month or whatever the number is, which equals X over 5 years, but if you just kept making the same payment and you did this refi and you prepaid it, look at how much interest you'd save over 5 years, 10 years, and look at how much faster you'd pay off your mortgage. And that's what Josh did, is he said, hey, if you took that savings and reinvested it, it was a $300,000 benefit. So that is the idea I'm going to start with. Todd, if you want to add more color around that idea, or if you want to just get right into another one.
Well, Josh called that restructure versus refinance. So I thought he did a genius job of sort of highlighting how he did it. Probably what I would throw out there, I did a webinar last week and I'll figure out how to share it with the community because I didn't want to put it out on YouTube necessarily, on how to integrate the refi opportunity now with an annual mortgage review strategy. And I got tremendously positive feedback about what I taught. And I walked through really what my team is doing and how we've really kind of shaken it up. And so what I would tell you is if you're looking to get some refis now, it's just super easy today to write an email out and send it to your database that has something that says, the Fed did what, ? Something really short, like something to get to intrigue. We sent something out that said the Fed is lowering rates, ? And then just said most economists believe that the Fed is going to lower rates. How's that going to impact you and your mortgage? And you and your were both in capitals, ? Let us know if you're interested in finding out why or finding out about it. I think it's something as basic as that. And, I think it got almost 50 people who actually inquired to get annual mortgage reviews, from that. So again, think about what you can do. That's the easy button to get to your clients. Don't feel like you've got to overthink it and come up with some fancy video. No doubt in my mind, email is not the best and fastest way. I'm just telling you it worked as part of our multi-channel strategy. I shared last week, I don't have it here on my desk on the call, the postcard that we had sent out, or the mailer was an actual card that my team had sent out. And that did the same thing. It got about 40 people who replied. And so each time we're hitting people, it's just a reminder. And now you got the news talking about it. And so I think in the end, it's this differentiation. And I love what you said, Dave, throw the third column in there with sort of how that extra prepay works, because they're not getting that advice from other folks. I saw an email that came into one of the team members I'm training yesterday, and the LO literally said in the email, here's your rate with no points. I don't think it's worth buying down an interest rate. And I would say two things about it. Number one is is it wasn't helpful to the client. It wasn't any education, because then the client went to a second lender, now to a third lender, which is our team. And neither of them are using a TCA. Neither of them are giving any options other than a no point option. And ironically, when you actually, with a flat yield curve, if you would have spent a little bit money on her pretty large loan, $400,000-ish loan, the break even's pretty short based on what her goals are. And they all missed an opportunity to educate and help a borrower. So even when your client comes back to you, Dave's already said it, they've already gotten a call from their servicer when you pulled their credit. They may have already registered on a website that sold their data, and now they've got 5 other people calling them. But you've got an opportunity to differentiate yourself by giving advice, and don't talk about refinance. Let's do this, restructure. So once you show Dave what you pulled up here.
Yeah. So this is the actual total cost analysis that Josh did. And as you can see, the payment, the client saved $1,188. And in this case, he did, one TCA where he showed that, if you prepaid that, it would be $126,000 and it would be $300,000 in savings over 30 years. So to me, the magic of this is he created a total cost analysis. He obviously wowed the customer, but then he turned it into a headline that he promoted on social media. And the headline was, imagine saving $300,000 in interest by restructuring your mortgage. I mean, brilliant headline. Every mortgage coach should do something similar. I mean, you've had clients where you saved them a lot of money, and if they prepaid it, they would save a lot. And you could, here's the thing. And again, I don't know what I would have done on this specific client. I'm going to assume that this was the exactly right move. But I can tell you right now, there are some clients where, column 1 would have been current and, restructure and improve your cash flow. Get an extra $1,100 a month to do whatever you want. And column 2 would have been prepay your mortgage and accelerate your debt. And there are clients where they're sophisticated and they have financial planners, and there might have been a column 4 that said, reinvest the difference with your financial planner. Or maybe column 3 would have been reinvest with your financial planner versus prepay. So guys, this is the way you kill it in the refi market. The first wave has happened. So, all the low-hanging fruit, it's happened. We're in the second wave right now. So I would urge you to update all of your total cost analysis with prepayment strategies, investment property strategies. And if you have a refi lead and you haven't given them a TCA, it is not too late. Get it out there. And this is not coming from me, Mr. Mortgage Coach, because I'm the owner mortgage coach. This is coming from a guy who's been in the mortgage business for 30 years. And I know that if you wow a consumer, you get the business, you get the referrals, and then if you keep providing this kind of advice, you get the client for life. Todd, back to you.
Well, I think the key, what I just took away from you is think through what your client needs and how you want to present it to them and give them lots of options. I think the other thing that you said is it's not too late, right? The first wave of low-hanging fruit is maybe gone, is what I would say, because again, if you talked to someone 45 days ago and they didn't pull the trigger, don't forget to call them back now. Where we're seeing a lot of luck on our team is the person who before thought, well, maybe not. Again, take advantage of the chatter around interest rates and call them and say, hey, I just wanted to circle back with you. I'm not sure if you saw what the Fed did, and explain it to them in a different way, how it matters to them versus today versus what it was before. Because I think if you did a good job of tracking your leads, then you now can go back through. Worst case is just go through Mortgage Coach, look at who you've actually, created numbers for. And there are people there who, may have gone somewhere else if you didn't follow up. But I think that there's actually probably more opportunity of people who are waiting for you as their trusted advisor to call them back, give them the update. And then I think the other part of it, Dave, is when we talk annual mortgage reviews, when you're talking to somebody and they're like, well, you know what, I'm only saving $80 or $180 or whatever they want to save. If you're not setting a target rate for them in the future that you start proactively watching, right? I mean, 80 some odd % of economists think we're going to head into a recession and that interest rates could drop, as much as 0.5 or 0.75% from here. And if you're not actually taking those other clients who you're investing time and energy into today who can't refi because they had a good rate before, set that rate, even if it's 2 3/4 on a 30-year fix for later, set it now and come up with a system to track it. Ideally, you would be using your CRM. You can certainly use Mortgage Coach as part of that. Or you can just use an old school spreadsheet, but you have to know what that looks like, because there's clients out there who you can't help today because it just doesn't make financial sense. And then I guess the last thing I'll throw in there, David, you can sort of tell me which one you want to run on is, but I'm still seeing a ton of requests for debt consolidation. Those folks still are waiting for someone to help them. And a lot of shorter terms, that wasn't kind of in vogue before, but shorter terms, people want to be more fiscally responsible now, especially with recession talk. And so shorter terms, I think, are kind of a big deal. And if you're not talking to your clients about it and offering it to them, even the ones who have pretty decent rates, then I think you're making a mistake. And then use the 5-year look that Dave talked about. Here's what your savings is over the 5 years, and then adjust. The second one, the 15-year default, is good for most, but maybe it's only a 10-year you need to do, or maybe they're retiring in 12 years and you need to do a 12-year lookout on that. And I'm seeing a lot of people who call saying, hey, I want a 15-year, but instead they're just getting a 20 or a 25. So don't get stuck kind of in that channel thinking. Any thoughts on that, Dave?
Yeah, well, Tamara strongly just posted, I love showing a 20 and a 15-year. So a lot of people in our community, they call that a term reduction refi. And a total cost analysis just makes that super clear for the consumer. And it just aligns around that, like, what are we here to do as mortgage coaches? Like, what is our mission? What is our differentiator? I'm going to show it on my screen right now just because I don't think I can share this too much. But this is what a mortgage coach needs to say, and this is what a mortgage coach needs to do. My advice helps you build wealth with real estate faster by helping you make smarter mortgage decisions. And I coach you over time so you always have the best mortgage to achieve your goals. So if you don't know what your client's goals are over the next 3, 5, 15, and goals like how old do they want to be when their mortgage is paid off? Like, if you had asked that question and then they're 40, or like they're 35 or 40, and they want to be, they don't want to be 65, they want to be 55, 60. Now you've uncovered a need. They've told you, I want to have my loan paid off by what? And now you show them a term reduction TCA, and you're a hero. You're going from price to advice. But I mean, here's the deal. So many of you aren't doing mortgage coach reports because you're just, like, I love this image. I put this in a lot of my presentations. It's like, I know there's a better way. Like, it's obvious that a round wheel is better than a square one, but it's obvious that mortgage coach is a better way to deliver rates and fees. But so many people are just like, I'm too busy. And here's the deal. You're not too busy. So one more thing, and then Todd is actually going to be closing out the call because I need to jump a little earlier. I wanted to just pull up the lead generation playbook because it's just a good reminder, when we're thinking about consumer first. And so if you go down to the bottom strategy, number 11, when I say consumer first, I'm not talking about buying leads. I think of this as, consumer direct. Like, if I use the term consumer direct or customer direct or direct to consumer, everybody thinks, oh, you're buying leads. You're doing advertising and you're buying leads. So I recently coined this term, at least, when I speak and teach, consumer first. And so I just want you guys to go through this. And obviously, number one is optimizing your past customer base. We talked about that. I do want to shine a light. Todd, you talked about HomeBot, but I am seeing a lot of mortgage coach loan officers gravitate to a combination of websites, which Josh, and that's how he's generating 10,000 leads a year, is websites, and platforms. So when I jump, why don't you talk a little bit about HomeBot, a little bit more about that? I do want to make sure that if anybody is serious about getting to the customer direct, that you do not miss the concept of having, a website, a local website, a niche website Huge fan of what Scott Nicholson's doing. And he was on Tuesday's call. And he not only shared how he's using the seller buy down to generate leads, he actually showed how he's advertising it out in the marketplace. Todd, you didn't see that interview by any chance, did you?
No, I just put it on my homework list.
I am telling you right now, watch the whole thing. I had, Craig Strent talk about how to get business from financial planners. We had, Larry B-Tag talking about how to use Facebook organic, not spending money on Facebook, but just organically, how to get more business. It was a fabulous call. We had Mr. Win by Noon from Houston, Michael talking about, how he's getting business from his past clients. And then Scott was the anchor where he showed, hey, how am I putting, not open house signs, but he's putting signs out on weekends while people are going to open houses that's generating leads around the seller buy down strategy. So be sure to check that out, my man. So Todd, I'm gonna let you take over. I'm gonna jump within the next 5 minutes, but I'm gonna have you take over the call. I want to remind folks, if you do have questions live, post them now. I will, if I see a post or a comment, whether it's in Zoom or Facebook, I'll bring it up before I leave, Todd.
All right, so I'm throwing into here since you mentioned HomeBot, I'll talk about that in just a sec, but I'll throw into, I threw it already into Facebook, I'll throw it into Zoom, the link to register for the webinar I'm doing, because I think in the end, when I'm hearing you talk through this, I know that a lot of you are overwhelmed. Like, oh my gosh, I got to work for financial planners now. Wait, I got to go put out signs on the weekend about seller buy downs. Wait, I got to create a website. Start with whatever's easiest for you, right? When you look through Dave's lead generation playbook, right? He starts with the easy stuff, which is your own clients, right? We all have, it's so easy to reach out and create engagement. So the webinar that I'm going to do on Thursday of next week is about creating client engagement. It's how do we use tools like Mortgage Coach? How do we use tools like HomeBot to create engagement with our clients by adding value? Because what we're finding is that they're watching, right? They're watching you. So just go back to the video we showed earlier of Josh interviewing the client around her experience with his team, right? They're watching that. They may not watch 15 minutes of it, but they see it, right? They may not see Denise's interview of someone or one of her videos she posted, but they're seeing that testimonial that we showed with her balloons, right? Because that's super catchy. And so you're trying to figure out, well, how do I create engagement? And the thing is just to start now, right? Larry B-Tag, I love Larry, and I'm so glad that he shared with the community, right? He's creating it organically. It's not costing any money. It's just taking a little bit of time. And so the whole goal is to do something, right? Dave already mentioned the word jam session, right? This group started out as an insane productivity for Mortgage Coach, all around Darren Hardy's insane productivity product for Mortgage Coach users. And he talks about this idea that you have to schedule time to work on these things. So I've got jam sessions scheduled. And so as I go through my week, I make lists for topics and things I'm going to study during that time. Tuesday's call out on my homework list, right? The interview that Dave did with Josh Metal around lead generation was on my homework list. I did that this morning in my jam session. And so you've got to think through, how and when can you execute these things, but don't get overwhelmed. I think that's the challenge there's so many great ideas in this community. Just pick the ones that really resonate the most with you. And, again, I was kind of looking at the niche piece, right? You've got something that is good. Dave, you said it on the interview with Josh, right? There's riches in the niches. We've heard that before. And one of you threw out there, well, gosh, just even if you're an expert in high-rise condos, right? Or you live in a high-rise condo, do a video on it and create that as your niche. I mean, there's something that you do that you're really great at that someone's going to watch and want to learn from. And someone's correcting our spelling, our thing of Larry's B-Tag, Bet-Tag. All right, sorry about that. Larry, I love you, buddy. But I appreciate the correction on that. Pronunciation's not my game. But I think that
right? Me either.
What's your niche, right? Financial advisors can be the niche. I mean, there's all these different ways to approach it. But I do think when we get off this call and Dave and I throw 27 ideas at you, you're like, holy smokes, like, where do I start? Pick whatever resonates with you. Pick the easy button and get it going. That's why when we talk about things like annual reviews, and you can just shoot an email out. Even if your email only gets you 5 people who respond about a refinance, well, guess what? That's 5 more people, right? You don't have time to pick up the phone and call 200 of your previous clients, but you can send them an email and hope that a few of them respond. And just think through these things and don't be overwhelmed, but just make sure that you instead execute, one bit at a time. And, I saw Josh's email because he wrote it when he finished it when he was at my house, that he sent to his clients talking about the market and interest rates. And it's like way in depth and it's got links to pictures. I would never write something like that because it's just not in my skill set, right? When I had my team send out the email, it was like 3 sentences. So again, don't get overwhelmed by it. Go easy. Don't you see that, Dave, where people just like overthink it and make it too hard?
Yeah, absolutely. Or they're like, oh, I got to do exactly what this person did. So my last thought before I jump off today's call is, this is a great interview from Josh. I mean, when you see his results, 146 loans last month, 56 million in production, on track to close 1,200 loans for the year, generating 10,000 leads a year as a team. It's a decade's worth of work. And it's a decade's worth of intentional work. And when I opened the interview with Josh, we kind of had a joke for a minute or two because he was like, oh, I was out celebrating with my wife and sorry for being late, because he's never late. Well, celebrating for Josh, 1, he was like home by 8 or 9. And 2, he was late for me, but he had already done his workout. So just remember, this is a guy that is super intentional, hardworking, winning by noon, 7 days a week, whatever winning is by him. You don't have to be him. You have to be you. When I did this mastermind last night, I had everybody go around the room and share their mortgage story. And literally one of the women started tearing up and I had tears. And these were not, Josh Middle level producers, but these were people that were living their dreams. Like one of them was a single mom who raised her kids and, balanced work and life and was having a life that she couldn't have had what the mortgage business gave to her. So it's like everybody has different goals, has different definition of what success is for you. Be you, like listen to the Josh for inspiration, but then be you. So Todd, I'm going to leave you to close out the call. Everybody, thanks for showing up and being part of our community.
Awesome. Well, Dave, always appreciate your leadership. And I'll take the handoff and I'll kind of run through some of my highlights from Josh's videos. And I'll take what Dave just said. It's about you. You don't need to be the next Josh, but there's a few things that were done in that video, which I think are really critical for all of us to hear and for maybe you to think about as you're getting off of this call overwhelmed and saying, well, what do I do next, right? I mean, discipline is really a difficult thing for a lot of us. And one of the things I've always admired about Josh is his discipline. He joked that his late night was 8 o'clock. And, again, Josh is a guy who, if you've watched his story, he gets up super early, but he's really, really laser focused on sleep. In fact, he was one of the first people who I heard talk about sleep and really got me interested in a lot of the research and the other things that I've implemented in my life around sleep. It's funny because I led 2 webinars this week. I led the one on refis now and annual mortgage reviews and how to integrate that to get more loans today, but also build a sustainable business that is consumer first business like Dave is talking about. And my other webinar I did yesterday was all around morning routine. And what I loved about what Josh said on that interview with Dave is a few things. First off, he joked about the fact that this isn't their first webinar. I mean, Josh has added so much value in gold. He's super abundant, right? Most people who have a niche aren't going to go out there and tell you what their niche is because they want to keep it all to themselves so you don't go after it. In fact, I can remember sitting in Santa Fe, New Mexico with Josh and him saying, I launched this physician's website. Here, Todd, you should do it in Arizona. Now, this is why I tell you done is better than perfect. I thought about it. Josh gave me the roadmap as his friend, and then I didn't execute because I overthought it. And here he is 10 years later. Well, actually, it wasn't even 10 years ago. It was probably 7, 8 years ago. But here he is now getting 10,000 leads a month because he developed that strategy. And so it's a great story of someone who actually just executed versus someone who thought about it, in my case, overthought about what I did. And so you want to really take something that's simple and do it and see how can you build this in? How can you build that discipline in? And what does it take for you to get going? One of the things that I was talking about in the morning routine webinar yesterday was I highlighted the kind of the why behind it. I highlighted the different elements that you see in different, super producers' morning routines. And then I also said how to start your own. And one of the people that I read his morning routine was Tim Ferriss. And I think a lot of you know Tim has written a bunch of books. 4-Hour Workweek is what he's famous for, but he's got some more recent ones, Tribe of Mentors, and Tools of Titans. And he says that of those folks, over 85% of these super achievers that he interviews have some type of meditation practice in the morning. And what Tim does is he starts with making his bed. I read that yesterday. I almost made my bed today. I didn't. I will make it tonight, though, before my wife comes back in town. And he said if I can get 2 of those things done in the morning, then I know I've got momentum to go in the day. He felt like 3 minutes making his bed actually is one thing accomplished and done, and then I can move on. And so that's why when I'm talking about don't overthink this, make sure that you are laser focused on what is that next step, that next thing that I can do that'll really get us going. And so when Josh was interviewed by Dave, he said, well, even though I slept in this morning, I still did my workout and I did my meditation. Those are his 2 non-negotiables. And so, I've got a half a dozen different things in my morning routine, but it's what are your non-negotiables and how do you get those in? And so, I normally leave these calls when Dave calls on me for advice and I say, stop what you're doing now before you jump into your email when you get off this call. And I always say, you really need to spend a few minutes now just going through your notes and making an action plan, right? Do a jam session straight out of here. And my advice today isn't going to change from that. And so I'm going to walk through a few more of the things I learned in Josh's interview. I'm going to walk through a couple of the other ideas that Dave and I have discussed and bring in just a few other things that I'm seeing as I've got just 6 minutes here to, send you guys off with a wow. My goal is to not overwhelm you. My goal is to encourage you. My goal is to encourage you to figure out what it is that you can do. And then I love what one of the things that Dave said is I'm going to give you some homework to watch these testimonials, but I'm going to give you a short time frame on it. And so I think it's what can you do between now and the end of the day on Monday? And the reason I'll give you till the end of the day Monday is because number 1 is you may already have your day today committed. Number 2 is you got a weekend in between, and that may be committed, but most likely your Monday's not fully committed. So between now, today, over the weekend, or Sunday, I think you can carve out some time. And I find that oftentimes for me when I was in the arms deep in refis, arms deep in purchases, that for me, early morning was a time where I could get up, didn't impact my family, didn't impact my team. And I was able to get up, do my morning routine, then turn on the light bulb of let me think and let me implement these, this idea. So the first thing is to, if you're interested in these lead generation ideas, is to watch the 2 videos that Dave has highlighted. Watch it's like a 20-minute interview with Josh, and then watch the Tuesday interview with Scott Nicholson and et al., right? Larry Batag, got that right, thanks. And figure out, again, what is it that resonates with those ideas? That's the most recent thoughts in the mortgage coach community. How can I implement those? And then just prioritize all those ideas, right? Seller buy down will be on a list, right? Niches will be on your list. Financial planners will be on your list. Organic Facebook will be on your list. Testimonials will be on your list. And then decide which one of those is most important to you. And then whichever one it is, then you're going to have to say, okay, well, where am I at it today, right? Which is probably nowhere, right? You haven't started it. Or maybe you did start it and you stopped it. Or maybe you did start it and it's just not, you never gave it your all. You didn't really think through it. And then just take the time to write down, well, what are all the steps I need to do to get there? What is that perfect? There's no perfect. What is the optimal? What's the best thing I can do today in order to build out a testimonial process, right? It may just be signing up for a product like Social Survey. It may be using whatever it is that your company uses and thinking through what a scripting process would look like. Maybe it's it's the financial planner piece, and then it's okay, well, how do I do that? And you're gonna have to do some research online first on financial planners in your area. You're gonna have to look at your your database. Again, those are different strategies. I would probably jump in and look at the refi piece, and Dave also did highlight a couple of those. One is, as I had the conversation with Dan Keller a couple weeks ago, Dave pulled that out because I told him it was great. You can listen to what he's doing. especially around when he talked about the Fed. He talked about what he thought the Fed was going to do. Again, I would totally be doing an organic video around that today, along with the email that I've mentioned. You've also got what Josh Metal did, it's been a month ago, in that Shayla Gifford interview. Again, Dave pulled it out. I think there's a link below in there to that. Watch that, because these are just easy. Like, that's the lowest hanging fruit of all for those of you who haven't taken advantage of the refi piece. But ultimately, regardless of what you pick, schedule the time first. Like, literally physically schedule it on your calendar, right? Like, I'd pull up my Win by Noon and show you I've got time blocked off on there. Physically, I can look at it. So if someone says, hey, Todd, are you available at 11 o'clock on Monday? I can tell them yes or no. In fact, I can tell you the answer is no, because I block all of my mornings off, guess what, until noon. And ultimately, schedule the time. Write it down. Don't think in your head, oh, maybe I'll do that Sunday morning. If it's going to be Sunday morning, then write it in your calendar. That's a commitment you're making to yourself. You've got to train yourself to do that. And then go through that process that I've talked about. There's so much gold in this community, but it can be overwhelming. And I don't want you to be overwhelmed. I want you to just think, what is next? And then, of course, I'll give a pitch for my webinar I'm doing next Thursday. Just go to winbynoon.com/calendar. It's going to be all around client engagement. Because ultimately, in the end, I still think that the best thing you can do for yourself today is to make sure that you've got the ultimate annual mortgage review strategy. We know Mortgage Coach is a big piece of that. And I believe that HomeBot, which I've got the code for, which is somewhere in this, I'll just throw it in the thread again, is a great way to do that. And so I think there's an opportunity for you to learn, and I'm committing my time to it. Dave and I've talked about it a bunch. I've had so many people bugging me to do it. So I finally decided I would just do it live and make it available. So hopefully I'll see a lot of you there. So kind of as we wrap up here, I guess here's kind of the bow I would like to put on it. First off, thanks for you all being here. I think it's just really critical that at a time like we're at now, where there's going to be an opportunity over the next 2 years for you to grab even more refis than you did today. In fact, maybe even refinance the people that you're refinancing now, or refinance the folks who you missed, right? They got a bad loan from someone else. I've seen more people give me examples of folks who got a FHA streamlined refinance who should have gotten a conventional refinance where they bought out the mortgage insurance with upfront mortgage insurance premium. There's going to be those opportunities to help those people in the future with new loans, assuming that you've set that strategy in place. So take the time, figure out what's next for you. Reach out to me, reach out to Dave, reach out to this community. Let us help you. Hope to see a lot of you on Thursday on the webinar. Certainly we'll see a lot of you here again next Friday. As always, on behalf of Dave and the whole Mortgage Coach team, myself and the whole Win by Noon team, I just want to say thanks for being here. Appreciate you guys taking the time, and we will see you all next week.